This program is made possible through generous donations from viewers like you. To pledge your support, please visit aroodawakening.tv/give. Thank you.
It's finally here, the day you've been waiting for. Tonight, after hundreds and hundreds of entries, thousands and thousands of words of personal testimony, a winner will be announced. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, Michael Rood will read the best testimonies received in the 2017 Israel Tour Tell Your Story contest, and will declare a winner. This person is going to tour Israel for 10 days with Michael Rood, March 19th to 30th, all expenses paid. This is the day you've been waiting for. It's the end of the sixth day. The sun is set, and this is Shabbat Night Live!
Michael, it's going to be a great show tonight.
It will be.
Stand by, studio. 30 seconds.
Thank you. Michael?
Oh, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Ellie.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom to our fans. Welcome to Shabbat Night Live. The Israel Tour is coming up very, very quickly. Tonight, Michael Rood will announce a winner in the Israel Tour contest. But if you would like to attend the tour, there are still spaces available. 2 spaces, just 2 left. Annie and I will be talking about that in just a minute. Passover tickets are now available as well. April 14th to 16th. We'll be here before you know it. We're going to talk more about all of this in just a few minutes. But before we get into any of that, please welcome my co-host for this evening, the Director of Ministry Development for A Rood Awakening International, Annie Reed.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. How are you?
Wonderful. It's actually a good Shabbat. We're excited to be here.
Yeah.
We're announcing the winner.
This is a very good day.
We're not announcing the winner. Michael's
announcing the winner,
but
right.
we're still excited to be a part of it.
That's right. And Michael just told me before we came on the air, he asked me that we mentioned this, that there are 2 spots left on the tour. That's it. 2 spots left. This is your last chance to get on the tour. And more than that, it may be your last chance for the tour at all.
That's right. A lot of things are shaking in this, UN and with Israel and the United States. And so it very well could be the last opportunity that you have to visit Israel.
Yeah, we never want to say, oh, you can just go next year because, things always happen. And we're looking at this going, this might be it. So if you want to go to Israel, make sure you go to roodtour.com and sign up. Because if you have not been contacted yet for the Israel tour, then you didn't win, because Michael has already personally contacted the winner, and he's going to be announcing that winner tonight, along with reading a whole bunch of other testimonies from folks who submitted their testimonies. So
now, what makes this tour different than other tours? Because we know a lot of Christian teachers go on and take Israel tours as well, but what makes this one so different is a variety of things. So,
oh, yes. I mean, you're going to go to places that you just don't get to go to on a regular tour.
No, absolutely. Well, orientation, first and foremost, is Mount of Olives, of course. I mean, the Jewish quarter is on the very first day, including the Western Wall.
Wow. The Garden Tomb. Now, that's the real Garden Tomb, because a lot of these tours go to places like that Constantine's mother named, well, this is where Jesus did this, and this is where Jesus did that. Well, no, I mean, she invented those. These aren't the real sites. But now, hundreds and hundreds of years later, and archaeological digs have been done and that kind of thing, now we really know where things happen. Well, and still not, people don't go to those on the regular tour.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when we had a guest earlier in the year who shared with me that a lot of people go to visit Noah's Ark, but they don't realize that they're visiting these fake sites, because that's what the tour guides want people to believe. That's what, they don't have somebody that regulates where the tours go and where the sites are. It's not the real place. And so he says that 9 times out of 10, when you go on these tours, you're taken to these false areas, and they even manipulate the areas to look like, they were supposed to be Noah's Ark or out of the Bible or whatever the case may be, but it's really not that location. And so in Israel, it's very much the same case. These locations that we're told, are the Garden of Tomb and other locations that
this is where Jesus was born.
Jesus
this
walked.
is where even where he was crucified. Even that is built on tradition. And you're going to get the
Exactly.
truth there as well. So we'll talk more about the tour later, but that is the Israel tour. It's coming up very soon. And then just a couple of weeks after the tour, it is time for Passover, our biggest event of the year. Passover tickets are going very fast. My goodness, we've got room for several hundred people, but already it looks like we might have to expand. But that's okay. That's great. I mean, come join the party. It's PassoverCharlotte.com. This is not just a Seder. This is not just an evening Seder like, if you've ever been to one with just a few people or a few friends or something like that. This is a big weekend event. This is all weekend long. And what's so special about this, we were talking about this earlier, is that on the calendar, the way the calendar works, on the Hebrew side of things, this is the exact series of events that happened on the exact days that they happened when Yeshua was crucified. Because he was crucified on a Wednesday. No, it was not Good Friday. It doesn't work that way. You can't get 3 days and 3 nights out of that and raise on, Easter Sunday. That doesn't work that way. But he was actually crucified on a Wednesday. And that's what happens this year. Passover literally falls on a Wednesday. So you're going to get to see the screenplay of what happened the year Yeshua was crucified. It's really a special time.
And Passover tickets are for the Seder are first come, first serve. So you actually get to select where you'd like to sit with your family or friends or whomever your guests are for this event. We have the children's ministry for the first time ever. We have a youth ministry. But we have a lot of exciting events throughout the entire weekend. We have the matzah mixer, which is a great welcome. After you register, you'll have the opportunity to meet us at the matzah mixer, interact with us, the speakers, with other attendees, Michael himself as well.
Oh, the matzah mixer is a blast. You mentioned that because we get this thing called, it looks like an upside down wok. And it's called a hajj. And Michael discovered this. And this is the way they cook unleavened bread in the Middle East. Still to this day, the Bedouin do it this way. And so you're going to cook unleavened bread for the Passover meal that we're having later that night. Or is it the next day? The next day. And everybody pitches in to make the unleavened bread on these, what's called a hajj. And it's very interesting and educational. Everybody has a blast doing it. The kids love it. It's a great time.
And you get to see Shabbat Night live. That's right.
You're there for the taping. You are part of the audience. So keep watching for Passover details on Shabbat Night Live. You can watch us on Sky Angel. That's the Dish Network, channel 262, 6 p.m. every Friday. We're also on DirecTV, channel 379. That's Uplift, 9 p.m. Eastern every Friday. We're also on Hope TV in Canada and, of course, on AvivTV.com. We also have 6 other shows on AvivTV.com, so you can watch all that great stuff all weekend long. You can see the full schedule at AvivTV.com/schedule. Now, remember, Michael makes a big deal about putting almost all of his teachings for free on YouTube. Some of them are there for only a limited time, so you need to watch them now if you see them up there. And you need to subscribe to know when new teachings are uploaded, because otherwise you'll never know. And we're uploading things all the time. So if you have not subscribed yet, it is very easy. When you're watching YouTube, just look for the red subscribe button. If you're watching YouTube right now, where is it, Annie?
Right down
there.
here.
Okay. And if you're not on YouTube, that's going to look really weird, but that's okay. And then choose the way you'd like to be notified by text or email. It's your choice. And then you're all done. So you can do it now. And once you're done, great. And you'll be notified every time that we have something new going up on YouTube. All right, okay, now there are only 11 days left to get the love gift for February. How do we know that? We look according to our astronomically and agriculturally corrected biblical Hebrew calendar. We are on February 17th. That is the 19th day of Shabbat, which is the 11th biblical month. You see it on your screen there. We only have 1 weekend left in this month, both on the regular calendar and Hebrew calendar. Now, the love gift. Find out what Yeshua was really trying to say when he insulted the Pharisees at dinner. You know that whole story, and there's a big story behind the story. Why it was so significant in the timeline of his ministry, what it means for your faith today. That's all found in Michael's new teaching, The Season of Our Insult. Michael's new teaching for February, it's episode 14 of the 20-episode Love Gift teaching series called The Ministry of the Messiah. This is that teaching series where if you line up all the spines, it shows a beautiful picture of the Messiah. We are on number 14 of 20, and it's only $50. Well, actually, it's not the cost of $50, but if you donate $50, we will give this to you as a gift. And if you want to donate $100 or more, you'll get the teaching, plus an alabaster jar filled with anointing oil infused with the scent of frankincense. This is really good stuff. Now, this is not an essential oil. It's just a fragrance, but it's a beautiful fragrance. And this jar is wonderful. It's a heavy little thing. It's made of stone, I guess. It's a beautiful
It's
white
beautiful
alabaster
piece.
jar. Yeah. So that can be yours. All you got to do is go to aroodawakening.tv/lovegift, and you can find both options there. And you can actually have a recurring love gift if you like. Just set it once and forget it, and you will get every one of the teachings. And if you do that, you can also get all of the previous teachings. So if you're just discovering this now and want all of the previous 13 episodes, you can do that too. Just go to aroodawakening.tv/lovegift and choose recurring gift, and you can do that. Now, Michael Rood is going to share some amazing stories of people coming up next who have had their lives turned around by this ministry. And of course, that includes the story from the winner of the Israel Tour contest, an all expenses paid trip to Israel with Michael Rood and the rest of the tour group for 10 days on the Israel Tour that is like none other in the world. But first, let me ask you, how are you watching this program? Is it on Sky Angel? Is it on Uplift? Is it Hope TV or any other television network? Well, the only reason you're seeing this is because people just like you made a donation. We are viewer supported. You keep us on the air. Your donations are the only means of support that we have. So if you like what you see, get the love gift. Get the love gift teaching in the alabaster jar of frankincense infused or the oil infused with frankincense. Here's how you can get that love gift and support this ministry right now.
Thy will be
It's
done.
winter in ancient Judea, and Yeshua is teaching in the Dead Sea Valley. While teaching, he is invited to dinner with a group of Pharisees, where they notice that he is not adhering to their man-made ritual hand-washing. What results is a war of words that will eventually lead to Yeshua's crucifixion. This month, Michael Rood presents The Season of Our Insult, a new teaching on the difference between true righteousness and its man-made counterfeit.
He doesn't wash his hands. He marveled? No, he was offended.
The Season of Our Insult is an all-new teaching from Michael Rood, part of a 20-episode Love Gift teaching series. But the only way you can get it is with your Love Gift donation in February.
And Yeshua said, you Pershing clean the outside of the cup and platter, but inside you are full of gluttony and excess. You fools!
Own The Season of Our Insult right now when you give a Love Gift donation of $50 or more. Or donate $100 or more to get this new teaching, plus an alabaster jar and a supply of anointing oil infused with the wonderful scent of frankincense. A daily reminder of Yeshua's words that how we portray ourselves on the outside must be the same as how we are on the inside. Get the alabaster jar, the anointing oil, and Michael Rood's eye-opening teaching on Yeshua's example of true righteousness, the season of our insult.
All these things that you need, you'll have, but you pursue the kingdom. Do what he told you to do.
Act now to get Michael Rood's new teaching, The Season of Our Insult, plus the alabaster jar and anointing oil. Hurry! This offer is only available in February. Make your love gift donation now, online or by phone.
Well, this week I got an alert from Nehemiah Gordon. He said that the Torah police were on the march in Washington, D.C., that the inauguration did not even get started before they were out in force. Nehemiah is with us. Nehemiah, tell us what is going on in Washington, D.C. with the Torah police.
Well, Michael, I don't know if you know this, but President Trump's daughter Ivanka actually converted to Judaism and has openly said that she's an Orthodox Jew. And her participation in the inauguration triggered alerts all over the Jewish internet about the what she was going to do and and specifically how she was going to observe Shabbat. I mean, they were talking about this weeks before the actual inauguration, and finally, when the inauguration came, I mean, it was a buzz. It was exploding all over the Twitter and Facebook, condemning her as not observing properly all the rules and stipulations of the Orthodox Jewish understanding of observing Shabbat. And they actually, it's the first time I heard the term, they call it shomer shaming. Shomer is keeping, and somebody who keeps the Shabbat is called shomer Shabbat or shomer Shabbos in America. And so she wasn't doing everything according to their rules and regulations, so they're shomer shaming her. And they actually use this term, Michael. They called it the frum police. Frum is the Yiddish word that means observant, similar to shomer. And so the shomer shaming and the frum police, they came out in force to attack Ivanka. So here you have, imagine this, the first Jewish first daughter and first son-in-law. In over 200 years of American history, as far as I know, there's never been a first daughter and a first son-in-law who were Jewish. And instead of being proud that here are these people who are professing to adhere to the Torah, instead they had to do what we call in Hebrew lipashpesh batzitziot, which means to pick through their tzitzit. It's actually an expression in Hebrew. What it means is, you know, you got your tzitzit that you wear, and usually you wear it under your garments. Nobody else's business. They don't see it. But so people will come along, and they'll make sure they'll pick through. Lipashpesh is this. You're picking through. Do they have the right number of strings? Do they have the right number of knots? Are the strings the right color and the right hue? This is to pick through the tzitzit. This is what they were doing to poor Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared, who were just trying to as they understood it, live according to the laws of the creator of the universe, according to his Torah. And they were attacking her for three main things. And it was ridiculous. It was insane, Michael. I mean, literally, there were people who took photographs that were published of her standing in the Oval Office on Shabbat while her father is signing these executive orders, and they blew up these JPEGs to see, what does she have in her hand? Is that a phone? Is she taking photos on Shabbat? And you might be thinking, if you're not Orthodox, well, who cares if she's taking photos? The rabbis have deemed that forbidden. And so she's violating these rules of these modern-day Pharisees of Orthodox Judaism, which she claims, you know, she says she's part of. So
now I have to point out, now this is the world that you were raised in. So your comments on this, your father's a rabbi, who's the son of a rabbi, this is your world. And being raised as the next Pharisee rabbi for the next generation, that's the world you came from.
Yeah. Well, my father's rabbi wasn't a rabbi, but on my mother's side, we have rabbis going back about 1,000 years at least. And my father was a rabbi, and I was absolutely raised with this. And you can't understand the anxiety that an Orthodox Jew goes through. I'll just give you a quick story. I was with a friend who's Orthodox Jew, lived in the Old City, and we were driving somewhere in Israel, and he had to get back before Shabbat. Okay, no problem. Well, he was wearing a plaid shirt, not a white shirt. And on Shabbat, you need to wear the white shirt. And he started sweating and was all nervous. What will happen if my neighbors see me? He knows there's nothing wrong with wearing a plaid shirt on Shabbat. But what will happen if my neighbors see me as I walk in from the Jaffa Gate? It'll be after sunset, and my neighbors will see me, and I'll be wearing a plaid shirt instead of a white shirt, as the rabbis require. And this was deep anxiety that he was going through. And I can only imagine, I don't know if poor Ivanka was going through this, but I guarantee you Jared was nervous. You know, there's this expression, Ma yomru habriot, what will the creature say? And what that means is, we know this isn't something that God forbids. Hasn't commanded us not to do these things, but people have said we can't do them. Well, what will they say if they see us doing something that the rabbis have forbidden, or that even looks like something the rabbis have forbidden? So he was terrified he'd be seen in his plaid shirt, which is a violation of the Shabbat for an ultra-Orthodox Jew. And you know, in Ivanka, she did three things that she has been widely condemned for in the Jewish blogosphere. She took photos on Shabbat, according to the evidence.
Number one, okay. We got one strike on her, okay.
Yes, 3 strikes, you're out. Number 2 is she was a passenger in a car on Shabbat, and it's forbidden to drive on Shabbat, according to the rabbis. Why is it forbidden? Because in Exodus 35, it says not to kindle a fire. And you know, a car uses internal combustion, and the rabbis will tell you that has nothing to do with the work involved in building a fire, of chopping wood and gathering sticks and rubbing sticks and building a fire. What it means is that there's something special about fire, that fire is this supernatural, somehow ethereal concept that you can't cause it to burn on Shabbat. And so she, by being a passenger, increased the weight of the vehicle by even a fraction, and therefore increased the amount that was burning, because she didn't drive the car, right? So she's violated Shabbat by being a passenger in the car. And why did she do that? Because she didn't want to get stomped by the protesters in Washington, D.C. who came out against her father. And she wanted to go to the
they were burning limos. I mean, I bet they even had to drive that one a little bit on the fast side.
Well, they burned a Starbucks. I'm sure she had good, in the end, they smashed up a limo. I'm sure she had good security. But the point was, the Orthodox blogosphere was telling her, Ivanka, Yael, that's her Hebrew name, Yael, you should have walked from your home to the inauguration. You shouldn't have driven in a car or as a passenger. And number 3 is on Friday night after sunset, she went to a church service. And according to the Orthodox Jewish understanding, it is forbidden to go to a church. And just so you understand, my father, the Orthodox rabbi, in his whole life never stepped foot into a church. He had one of his best friends die, and the service was in a church, and he was not allowed to go into that church because it's considered to be, and it's really kind of strange to me, but the rabbis teach that you're allowed to walk into a mosque, but it's forbidden to walk into a church. This is what they teach, because a church may have images and idols, statues, and there won't be any statues in the mosque. And so my father in his whole life never went into a church. Well, Ivanka and Jared, who are supposed to be Orthodox Jews, went into a church. And and it's literally the phrase, Ma yomru habriot, what will the creatures say? Well, the creatures were speaking. The Orthodox Jews were pointing fingers and condemning her as a traitor to the faith and as a chilul Shabbat, a desecration of the Sabbath, chilul Hashem, that she has desecrated the name. I say, Michael, they are the ones who have desecrated the name by picking through this poor woman's tzitzit instead of standing by her. And it reminds me of this documentary I recently saw called The Way. It was about Christians who came out of the church and start keeping Torah. And the man tells her this story of how he went, when he first got into Torah, he went with his wife to a football game, and he posted a photo, and he was so scared when he posted the photo. What will the people say? And of course, the Torah police condemned him. He was shomer shamed. He was attacked by the front police. So it's no different even in the Hebrew roots world. It's incredible.
Well, yeah, we're saying the same thing. It's like every week we got the Torah police that attacked our Shabbat Night Live, which we record live to tape. But they say, I see all these people working, getting ready for Shabbat. And it's like, no, this was recorded once. I think it was recorded in the morning at the opening of this thing. But, it's like they're always trying to find fault. They add nothing to life at all. They're just trying to attack and to shame other people. And we see, it seems to be kind of a spirit.
I think there's a Pharisee spirit that we're dealing with here, Michael, the spirit of condemning people. I was once condemned for teaching Torah in a synagogue on Shabbat because I was teaching things that were in a book I wrote. And people said, they're going to buy your book because you're talking about the information in your book. I said, I'm speaking about the Word of God. What are you doing in Shabbat? What are you doing to proclaim His name and teach His Torah? And, Michael, the way she was condemned on Shabbat really made me think of Colossians 2:16, which we've talked about in the Karaite files, where Paul was dealing with a similar thing or some similar issue. He said, let no one judge you in food or in drink or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths. And it's literally happening today where people are condemning her for keeping Shabbat, but not in the way that they believe it should be kept. And Michael, if you take what happened with Ivanka and look at Colossians, this explains a key concept in the book of Galatians. Everything falls into place. Some really cool stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have to get in because what you're talking about right now, this really explains the whole book of Galatians. Come back. Be with me next week. Let's go into the book of Galatians because this is exactly what Shaul was dealing with Peter there in Antioch, and he's talking about this in Galatia. So come back. We'll do this again next week. Thanks for being with us, Nehemiah.
If you're like most people, watching Michael Rood's teaching on this stage was enough. You gave a donation or bought the latest teaching from A Rood Awakening International. But what happens on this stage is just the beginning. Your support does so much more. Let me show you. When you make a donation or a purchase from A Rood Awakening International, you enable us to send free teaching materials to less fortunate people all over the world. You're also helping to supply all of the materials necessary to burn the DVDs and Blu-rays and to support the people who put them all together and send them out.
in 3, 2, 1.
But before any of that can happen, your support does something else. This is our video editing and production department. Your support enables these professionals to use their talents to spread the gospel. Videos that gain and hold viewers' attention to understand the truth that they've been missing their entire lives. In fact, your donation does even more. All of the graphics you see on those videos, Michael Rood's famous biblical calendar, the newsletters you receive in the mail, and every email you receive comes from the communications department. Here too, your support enables these highly talented individuals to spread the gospel. And when you have a question about the Bible, or want to join the Ambassador Club, or just want someone to pray with, your support helps there too, employing our partner relations team, including people on the phones in North Carolina, Montana, California, and even Costa Rica. In fact, your support also empowers our entire international operations, promoting Michael's message in practically every Spanish-speaking country in the world. And it doesn't stop there. You're also enabling us to spread the truth throughout our operations in Europe and South Africa. So, the next time you make a purchase or a donation because of something you saw on this stage, remember that you're also supporting everything else that goes on backstage. Thank you for standing with us.
Thank you.
You are invited to an event that will stir your faith like nothing else. Passover, the road to redemption. Enjoy an amazing Passover feast as Michael Rood narrates the Messiah's final hours, death, and resurrection in detail you've never heard before. Plus, kids activities, youth activities, and biblical teaching sessions all weekend long. You'll even learn how to make unleavened bread like they do in the Middle East. Passover, the road to redemption, April 14th to 16th in Concord. Tickets are going fast. Get yours now.
Traditions that we inherited from Babylon through Constantine have us occasionally with a little plastic cup and a little round wafer in a church service having what is called communion. But Yeshua was not having communion with his disciples. It was the last meal before his crucifixion, which happened at the time the Passover lambs were being sacrificed the following morning. Yeshua took this opportunity to explain something that had been embedded in the Israelite culture for then over 1,000 years. Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine to Abraham, and he blessed the Most High, saying, Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Yeshua said, this represents my body, which will be broken for you. As often as you do it in remembrance of me. And so we break this bread and we do it in remembrance of him. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup and he blessed the Most High with that blessing that Melchizedek blessed the Most High. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, borei pari hagafen. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, the King of the universe, the creator of the fruit of the vine. Yeshua said, this represents my shed blood, which will be poured out for the remission of sin. I will not drink another drop of the fruit of the vine. You take my cup and divide it among yourselves, because I won't drink it until I drink it again with you in my Father's kingdom. The marriage supper of the Lamb, Yeshua will lift this cup and he will say, L'chaim, to life everlasting. And until then, we remember what he's done and remember that marriage supper of the Lamb. Get ready.
It was Friday afternoon, the last day of 2016 in which we were in the office, and I gave the instructions that I wanted a camera set up in my office because when I came back, I had something very heavy to share and I didn't want anyone around. I wanted it to be just between you and me. The 3-day weekend allowed me 2 entire days after the Sabbath to empty a box of Kleenex and grieve over what it was that I had to share with you. And even coming into the office today, sitting here for the last 2 hours, literally shaking my My stomach is aching. I'm almost sick to my stomach for this period of time because I really don't know how to share this. And I don't get nervous. Nothing affects me like that, but this does. This started at the end of our Israel tour, which I consider to be the best thing that I can ever do for someone. Take them to the land of Israel and to let them experience Israel, to spend every waking minute with the people, and to, at the end, I expect that they will go back and they will be able to smell and taste and touch. They will so much be immersed in the scriptures that they will understand things from a whole new perspective. And so I've seen the lives change in this. And at the end of the tour, I sat down at the breakfast table with a couple by themselves. And at first, she was just overflowing, bubbly. She said, I want to tell you my story. And she said that for 15 years, she was a Roman Catholic nun, that she was conditioned and trained as a sex toy at her convent for the free use of the priest, the Catholic priest. As she told her story, and the tears ran down her face, and the tears ran down my face and her husband sitting there, to hear the pain and what she endured and what she went through. And then at the end, the smile on her face, the joy that I'd only witnessed every single day on that tour. This was payday for me. To know that, it was after 6 bypasses that I just had, that this, I was able to touch someone's life in such a profound way. And no matter when it happens, I get to leave this world knowing that I have done something good for at least one person. And I realized that, more people need to tell their story. And so since I said, this is payday for me, this is worth everything to hear her story, I came back and I said, okay, I'm going to put this out. I want to give away a free trip to Israel. I will pay their way from wherever they are, all expenses paid. Everything is taken care of. I want people to write and tell their story. And what happened? This is what happened, ladies and gentlemen. This is what happened. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories came in from every continent on the planet. And this weekend, with a stack that was put before me, I started going through this, and every one of them, the heart of these people came through, and it was so moving that I don't know how to tell the story, except I want to read a few of these and tell you just a little bit about the background of this, because everyone needs to tell their story. This is your testimony. And you want to drag your testimony out just as long as possible. This is his story in your life. And it's unlike anything that anyone else gets to experience. And you are the one that gets to tell your story. Fortunately, I have the privilege of hearing your stories. And I want to start out by telling you what happened. Before I went to do this, I set aside the days to do this, and I went upstairs. I got down at my bench across my bed, and I got down on my knees and buried my head in my hands and prayed. And I prayed that the Almighty would open my eyes and lead me to what He wanted and what needed to be communicated. What I learned during this period of time was incredible, but what I did is I walked over, I opened up the folder, flipped it open, and this is the one I came to. Diane. I was a Roman Catholic nun for 15 years. I lived a life of hypocrisy, professing to be a holy nun with vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Yet, having for years secret encounters with Catholic priests. I had been conditioned and trained for this very purpose. I did not choose this life, but at the age of 3, my father chose it for me. I was born into a devout Catholic family. We went to church every Sunday in holy days of obligation, commanded by the church, under the fear of going to hell. I also felt compelled to attend Mass every day, singing high Masses to accompany the priest in his duty. I was already in training. The convent atmosphere was not much different than the one that I'd been raised in. Fear, anxiety, depression was a part of every day without understanding why I felt this way. From the beginning, Superior stripped me of individuality, scheduling every moment of my day, providing religious garb, training me to walk, talk, and behave as dictated, yet there's no room for personal relationships. 2 hours each day were permitted for me to talk to someone, but only in a group setting. A monotonous, repetitious, a meaningless Hail Marys was considered prayer time. Bible study was non-existent. It created an atmosphere for mind control and submission to convent rules and regulations and to demons. Jehovah in my spirit was showing me that this was not the life he called me to. I wrote a letter to the Pope for the dispensation of my vows. It was also at this time I rejected the false teachers and the doctrines of the Catholic religion. Many years later, the Heavenly Father brought Michael Rood's teachings to my life. Everything changed. I began to understand that although I am a Gentile, in obeying the instructions given in the Torah and the prophet who came to show us the way, I've been grafted into the vine. Now I too am Israel. I can partake of all the blessings Jehovah has promised his people. I left out a good portion of her life here. This is what I wanted to share with you, but every moment, everything that happened in her life was very significant. And I've asked you to send these in so I could use your testimony and take portions of your testimony and put it out there, because people need to hear your testimony. They need to hear what the Almighty has done in your life. Diane, thank you. Thank you for the years I know that you spent in agony and torment, and yet the joy that you share now, and this is where it all started. Thank you. I had a submission, and this is what I was really hoping from everyone. Dennis, out in Roseville, California, did this beautiful piece, cover letter on it, and it was his life story. Beautifully done. A little over 500 words, just as I was asking for. And yet, as I go through here, I see so many incredible things that I can deeply relate to. And then, well, as he says, I've been a professing Christian for most of my life, but my journey and testimony really begins in 2009, when my mind was opened up to the real truth of what was in the scriptures. It began as an epiphany of sorts. And shortly after that beginning, a friend of mine emailed me a link to Michael Rood's video called The Great Secret of Solomon's Temple. What an impact that video would ultimately have on my life. It was a fascinating teaching. I found it to be incredibly educational, powerfully illustrating the fulfillment of many prophecies surrounding what the Messiah must fulfill during the spring feast of the Lord. It was a concept that I had never heard in any of my Christian church teaching. It was also gratifying to finally understand where the tradition of Easter came from, with the ridiculous idea of an egg-laying rabbit. But most important was how the Almighty had orchestrated the hiding and precise placement of the Ark of the Covenant, and of course its role in the upcoming future. This entire testimony of Dennis is an absolute gem. Thank you. And how can I thank all of you? I really would have to give away dozens of free trips to Israel, but I have to choose only one. Here's one. Here's one I think you'll enjoy. In the year 2000, I was a member and officer in a mainstream fundamental church. One night, while on duty as a highway patrol officer, as Illinois State Police, on a lunch break, he was on his typical routine, parked in a cemetery, eating a truck stop hot dog out of a cellophane package, and getting a few minutes of Bible reading and prayer in. On this particular night, however, I was moved to declare to the Almighty that I loved him, but I wanted to know more about him. There had to be more to our relationship than Jesus saves. In the following week, I took one of my periodic trips to nearby St. Louis to listen to a speaker. One in a series of touring speakers loosely based on religion, and this is the Prophecy Club, a speakers bureau, which Stan Johnson organized, and so he was there. These speakers were diverse, sometimes wacky, but usually interesting. The speaker on this summer night was Michael Rood. Never heard of him. Arriving early, I was sitting in the lobby with a cold drink. A bearded man in a strange robe, garbed and tied with a cord around his waist, sat down nearby. I mentally noted it and credited it to the strange folks that these meetings often brought out. At least he wasn't wearing an aluminum hat. It turned out that this guy was a speaker, Michael Rood. Yikes. Thank you for that first impression, Jeff. That's beautiful, because when I was doing the Prophecy Club tour at that time, as I came around, I was wearing biblical garments, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do. I wanted to strip away 2,000 years and 8,000 miles, take you back to the land of Israel, and dress in normal Israelite garb of the day. Actually, the outfit that I wear is modeled after Mordecai. He wore white linen and a blue tallit, as it tells us in the scriptures, when he was in the service of the king, Ahasuerus. And so Jeff sits down, and I'll let him tell the rest of the story here, just a little bit of it. Generally, Michael spoke on the Feast of the Lord that night. The experience for me was unlike anything I had ever felt before. I literally tingled. This hair stood up on the back of my neck. This was the truth in all capitals. Finally, I was learning at last how clearly God's plan and instructions are there for us to see, and how to participate in it, how to really follow the Messiah. I even learned the Messiah's actual name, Yeshua, and his father's name, Yehovah. This was fantastic information, more important than anything I've ever heard before or since. Following the meeting, I spoke with Michael briefly. As usual for him, he remained for hours taking questions. I immediately initiated a 21-day follow-up leading up to Yom Kippur. Thanks to Yehovah, my immediate family readily followed my lead. Life was transformed. We continue to live in His Word, of which we are not citizens, but at the center of everything is this pearl of great price, the kingdom of God and my family's role in it. I think of Jeff, as I do many of you. Hardly a week passes that I don't think of Jeff and marching out into Gomorrah with him. Jeff, you were on the tour with me before. Sorry, brother. I love you, Susan, the kids, but you're not going back with me this year. Helen, a school teacher. Postcards arrived addressed to me. A vacant chair with a message, "We missed you at Sunday school." Even as a small child, I sensed something was wrong. My questions went unanswered. My parents read Bible stories, and I also always felt a special place with Jesus. And the Ten Commandments bracelet was a constant reminder to keep God's law. As the years passed, I drifted in and out of various churches and denominations, always contending with that vacant feeling. Time passed. I had a husband, children. I lost my parents, became an empty nester. My husband passed away. I was still working at a job I hated at a place I despised. For marriage, I was a school teacher. To promote the students' understanding, I would define vocabulary words, give a time sequence of events, and explain relevant background information. Little did I realize this is what was missing in my approach to God's holy word. I found the Gospels to be disjointed in time and sequence, as well as translated into an archaic language. I had little familiarity with the relevance of historical events that formed the background information of the Gospels. Then I came across Michael Rood's ministry and the chronological Gospels. Instantly, the Gospels came alive with the vocabulary and time coding I needed for understanding. It was all woven into a tapestry of historical information. And then she goes on, attending the first Rood Awakening event out in December of, and at that time says that the family embraced her with loving arms as a family. Now, she's glad to be part of a Rood Awakening rather than a polite snoozer. So thank you, Helen. Thank you. Beautiful. Here's one. Here's a first sergeant, Air Force first sergeant. Just briefly again, this is what I was looking for. Every bit of this testimony is absolutely precious, but I'm also looking now for the things that communicate to you out there, and this is what I'm attempting to do. I came to know the Lord at the age of 12. My culture did not teach the commandments as Moses or Yeshua did. My religious world was confusing. I was taught that Jesus loves me, and that's it. Surely there was more. In 2012, a friend showed me the Bible verses about keeping the Sabbath. I believed immediately because the Bible told me so. So I decided to keep the Sabbath. But my family thought, really? I told my best friend, my sister, about the Sabbath, and she was kind to me, but not sure. She started doing her own research. She found this Tell It Like It Is guy on Roku and shared it with me. Wow, was all I could say as I watched this man telling me the truth. I love reading and watching everything that we produce because I do. Some people, it's abrasive, it's hard for them, but I want to tell it like it is because people will just snooze off into eternity if they just sit in these mega churches with some toothy, grinning preacher who just, rehashes Zig Ziglar, Think and Grow Rich, and How to Win Friends and Influence People, and throw in a verse and hold up his Bible. I believe the Bible. I don't know what it says, but anyway. Rebecca. This is Coeur d'Alene. Afternoon, May 2007, I sat in front of a UPS store chatting with my friend Karen about the Sabbath. I was expressing my frustrations with the religious system. In the middle of our conversation said, okay, it's time. I said, it's time? Time for what? She said, it's time for me to share some videos with you. I had no idea what she was talking about, but later that day, she stopped by and laid a complete set of Michael Rood's prophecies and the feast of the Lord in VHS on the porch swing. I looked at the package and was overwhelmed. I shelved them and waited to be moved to watch them. At summer, they sat collecting dust, but we were going to be moving, and so I decided if I better watch them now. For the next couple of weeks, we spent wait, here we go. Out of courtesy, I started watching the Spring Feast. Never before had I willingly listened to a guy in a dress and a long beard, but Michael got our attention immediately. For the next couple of weeks, we spent every spare minute with our jaws on the floor, listening to all 30 hours. We knew Christianity was flawed, but we didn't have any idea how much we had been lied to. We experienced a profound mixture of shock and excitement as he laid out what had been in the scriptures all along, but which we were too blind to see. My husband had come alive during his encounters with John Eldridge. I think is a brilliant author. I love him. Whose goal is to set the heart free. But after 5 years of being set free, we had begun to wonder, set free to do what? The videos answered that question. By the end of August, and the rude awakening that we got from Michael, we did a 180-degree turn and repented of all our pagan holidays. In the fall, we threw our first Yom Teruah banquet on the city beach, looking west across the lake. I had no idea what I was doing or how many would come, but we built a long, low table to recline at, bought as many china plates and wine glasses at the table would hold 24, and that night, exactly 24 people arrived, the exact number that had been set. I knew Yah was pleased. Well, one thing, Karen was wise. She kept on baiting you, kept on discussing things, and let you expose what was really going on in your heart. She didn't try to cram it down your throat. She waited and then said, okay, this is what you're looking for. Even though you didn't wake up immediately, you let this thing set on the dustbin, but the beautiful example. And that's why I do these materials. It's to energize your ministries, to reach out to your friends and families, your next door neighbor. I have no idea how you're going to do it, people, but you've already figured it out. You are already making it happen. Yeshua gave us a commission to get the gospel of the kingdom out all over the world, and that is what I committed to do. And with your tithes and your offerings, that is exactly what I've done. I've done exactly what I said I was going to do. I still do not own a house. I still rent a house. I don't invest in this world. After 6 bypasses, 3 heart attacks, and 1 stroke, I have no idea how long I've got, but we're going to go down with both barrels blazing, ladies and gentlemen, and it's about to hit the fan. Here's one from Guatemala. Oh my goodness, Guatemala. And I'm going to go on down. One time watching TBN, Trinity Broadcast Network, in which we were on the church channel until we just ran out of money, just couldn't afford to be on church channel anymore. But I was watching this eccentric looking but dignified gentleman. I thought he was absolutely nuts. Well, there's some honesty. Shocked by the way he preached, almost too irreverent for my liking, I changed the channel. Later that year, my husband said his boss had given him the name of a preacher. Happens to be Michael Rood. Same crazy preacher I had seen on TBN. I literally suffered listening to his teachings. They seemed brutal to me, but many things made sense. I went and studied, researched with books. I'm very skeptical by nature, she adds. Checked on history, not in stories, and found his argument spot on. My husband and I left the church we were in. I can't even spit into the well that had kept us alive, referring to the Seventh-day Adventist. I can tell you that this was the best decision we ever made. We have learned so much about Yeshua and his ministry in the last 2 years, more than the 13 years of being in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I try to share some of his teachings with some of my friends, but it's up to the Holy Spirit to change them. Just like with her. First time she heard me, she turned it off. Too brash, too abrupt, too in your face. But when she stopped to listen, and that's one of the reasons, ladies and gentlemen, that the Almighty told me how to dress for the Rude Awakening series. Why you see me in this beggarly, because people flip the channel, and now we know, they flip the channel, see this, and say, who is this nut? They expect that I probably dress like this all the time and mow the lawn in that ancient biblical garment. No, but they have no idea. They stop and listen. And how many testimonies have we heard that people have stopped, they've listened, and at the end of a half-hour program, they call up and said, send me everything this man has ever done. because it's his story. I'm just giving the testimony out what the Almighty has given me. Oh, here's a beautiful, beautiful one here. This is from Erica M. A friend and I were having our usual weekly lunch when she told me about the interesting teachings of Michael Rood. Scrolling down through an assortment of titles on YouTube, I was most intrigued by The Great Secret of Solomon's Temple. I was only planning on listening for a few obligatory minutes, just to satisfy her friend, but it didn't take long for me to become engrossed in the teaching. I called my husband to share my exciting discovery, and he agreed to watch more with me that night. This began our transition out of churchianity. In this one video series, The Great Secret of Solomon's Temple, Michael answered questions I had been asking most of my life. Why were there not 3 days and 3 nights between Good Friday and Easter Sunday? Question I asked my preacher, and my priest before that, and pastor, without satisfactory explanation, were answered in one of Michael's teachings. By the end of the following week, I found out my husband's curiosity had rivaled my own. We were so convicted by what we were learning, we decided to begin doing away with the old traditions and start doing what Jesus, Yeshua, said to do, and obeying him. Hanukkah 2012, we decided to go to the Arlington conference where Michael was releasing the first edition, the manuscript version of the chronological Gospels. This book and everything I was learning was an answer to prayer. Innocent traditions were exposed by Yahweh's light, and I was awakened to the false world I'd been living in. For months, I'd struggled with my teenage children, trying to get them to grasp this new information. I wanted to correct the administration of the Christian school where I worked and to reteach all my students the truth I was learning, but I was so frustrated with wanting to share the truth. And I was scared of chasing people away. I was scared of losing my job. Then one night on Shabbat Night Live, Michael read a letter from a man who shared the same frustration. Michael said on air with this analogy, saying that when sharing the truth, we need to be like a dripping faucet instead of blasting people away like a fire hose. Now she's making a difference in the Christian school. As administrator, as a teacher. Here's one from Israel. Zipporah. I'm a Jewish believer in Yeshua who lives in Israel. Lived there now for, I think, over 30 years. I met Michael personally when he moved to the Galilee from Jerusalem. Michael gave me a lot of his CD teachings and DVDs, and my husband started watching them first. I looked at some of them from a distance, and I saw this character all dressed up. And I thought, But her husband was a Gentile. Here, she's a Jewish believer. He's a long-line Portuguese fisherman. Al, a gruff guy. I mean rough. Pulls no punches. He watched it, and this is what lit him up like nothing before in his life. And I have to tell you, it's not on the paper that Al and I became very good friends because other limp-wristed people in the community, offended by my gruffness or approach or whatever, or really what we're going to see right here. Let me read this. Even though I was Jewish, I was not Torah observant, Zipporah says. None of the local congregations in our area were teaching about keeping the Sabbath, eating clean, celebrating the feast according to the Creator's reckoning of time. They were there are congregations all over Israel full of Baptist Jews. Baptists go over there and just, and the Jews that believe, they bring them right into paganism almost immediately. And so she was not Torah observant. She became a believer and started following suit of Constantinian churchianity that was in her area. And so her husband is not interested in this drivel that he's seeing in the Christian church. And then he gets my videos, which I gave to Zipporah. He latches onto it, and he is on fire. People would criticize me, and Al would lay him out cold, almost cold cock him right there on his porch as he'd sit there and tell him in words that I can't repeat on the air. He would tell him what to do with it. And so we became very good friends. And Zipporah says, my husband passed away almost 3 years ago. I wasn't there when Al passed away, but I came back. And at the 1 year anniversary, when the gravestone is set, I bought the gravestone for Al. Al and Zipporah, they were not well-to-do. And I said, this I want to do. And the memorial service. You know, I got to do that, but you know, we have saints who pass away, who get married, who, you know, have great, you know, the children graduate from school. They've been with me for years, and I can't be there. I can't be there at everyone's graveside, and I wish I could. But I would be gone every single day of the year if I were to do that. But my heart is with you. I can't be your pastor. I can be your teacher. But there comes a time where you have to stand on your own 2 feet. And where the community believers can stand together and can do these things for each other. You don't need a paid professional that went to theological seminary. You need someone whose heart is with yours, who can be there to comfort you. I could be there for Zipporah, but this is months and months after the fact. And his passing was a beautiful thing. And how it transpired. You know, letters. Israel, Guatemala, New Zealand, Ukraine, Finland, Iceland, Panama, India, Taiwan, Canada, Mexico, Philippines, Uganda, Namibia, Australia, South Africa, Argentina, Peru. Yeah, it just all over the world. All over the world, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a privilege, a pleasure to serve you. I don't know how much time I or any of us have, but it has been a privilege and a pleasure to serve by your side. I believe this is going to be our Shabbat Night Live special. Now we're getting down to who's going to go on the tour, but I'm going to take a break for you for just a minute. I wish instead of a screen coming up giving you 2 minutes to give, I wish the screen came up that said, you have a trip to Israel. Thank you. Thank you for standing with me. We are really doing what Yeshua said to do. 2 times I've laid on a stretcher and prayed and thank God that I was able to do what I did, because I thought that I was not going to make it another day. I thought that was it. And after laying there both times for quite some time, I said, okay, I'm still here. You know, help me. I've got a bigger story to tell. I've got so much that I want to do for the kingdom. Please raise me up. And that's the only reason I'm alive, ladies and gentlemen. For you. No one else. For my family, as much as any value I can be to them, but it's really, my life is a gift to the body of believers, and you are the ones that gave so that I could pay in cash because I have no life insurance, no health insurance. You gave to buy me 6 bypasses, very expensive. And I'm not squandering it, people. Thank you for standing with me. I'll give you 2 minutes just so that you can try to think of how much I love you and I appreciate you. Thanks. Thank you. This next letter I want to read to you was one of the most difficult letters for me to read, just because of the background, where these people have been with me. 750 words or less really starts out. I don't count those. We came into the Messianic Hebrew Roots movement about 12 years ago. Of all the teachers and rabbis, quote, end of quote, that waxed and waned through the years, Michael has been the one mainstay. We've seen Michael grow, and we've grown with him. We've seen and endured with him the ups and downs of this ministry alongside with Michael. And they indeed have. This is couples from Texas. They saw when my administrator, when I was in Israel, when he attempted to take over the ministry, and when we found out what was going on with him, and literally trying to steal the ministry. And then a few years later, when I was the very day that I left to get on a plane to go down and start our broadcast in Spanish on Enlace TBN, after years and years of working on it, that morning I was compelled. I felt I need to make sure if anything happens to me with all my runnings around and what I do, that my material is safe, that it will be promulgated, that the ministry can continue. And so I signed my name on a power of attorney to my vice president, who I trusted completely. Got down to Costa Rica, and I received a phone call that evening before I was to go on the air and start that ministry. And he had taken all of the money, which I've been saving for years, not taking a salary, over $250,000. I was close to being able to afford filming the chronological gospels. He took it out of the bank, put it in a bank that without my name in it, and then did a hostile takeover. The next day I went on the air, and he and the lawyers that he hired with my money called up TBN Enlace and said, Michael Rood has no authority, take him off the air. He has no authority with the Rood Awakening. Thankfully, the president of TBN Enlace said, I don't know a Rood Awakening. I know Michael Rood. I've known him for more than 10 years. I have an agreement with Michael Rood. Goodbye. And he slammed the phone down. Well, they used that $250,000 and paid one shyster law firm to attack me for an entire year until the $250,000 was gone and all charges were dropped because there was nothing there. But they knew how to play the game. These people stood with me through that. A lot of people stood with me through that. Bonnie Harvey stood with me. Walter, oh my goodness, I can't even begin. No, I'm not even going to start naming the names, ladies and gentlemen, because the Almighty knew this was going to happen. But thankfully, a man was praying down in North Carolina and spoke to me before this even happened. He said, the Lord told me that you're going to be building a studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. I thought he was nuts. But no, the Almighty knew, because I could never do what I'm doing here, up there. With the people that I had up there and what was going on up there, it could never be done. I had to go through this purging. It reminds me of the words of Shimon, the prophet who came to Miriam and told her at the dedication of Yeshua, he said, a sword is going to pierce through your soul as well, so that the thoughts and intents of many hearts will be revealed. Sometimes bad things happen to good people in order for the evil that's in other people's hearts to be exposed. I've seen it over and over and over. And folks, it's never going to stop. Another level, another devil. We just pray and we know that the Almighty is standing. That's why when it finally just rolls off me, when people attack, when they decide that they're gonna, try to, be the big man on the block and pee on my fire hydrant and all, it's like I don't even bother with them. They're the problem of the Almighty. He's going to take care of them. Maybe they were sent to do that just to draw away the people that are in their flock that are just hang around the periphery with me and really don't take a stand. I don't need innocent bystanders, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not looking for someone to follow me. I'm looking for someone to stand with me to help get this message out. That's it. You don't follow me. You follow Yeshua. I'm a tool. And thankfully, in Spanish, I'm a sock puppet. When my beard shakes, out come Spanish words, and it transforms people's lives all over the world. It's not me. It's the Word of God, which lives and abides forever. These people stood with me through all this. And as I'm reading this, I'll tell you, I lived through what they're saying here. They've stood with me alongside of me. And I know you people have done it. Not just these people, but so many of you out there have done that. And I can't thank all of you. It's just impossible. So that's why I do what I do, why I burn myself out. And I make myself sick, pushing myself. And people keep on coming and say, stop it, slow down. It's like, no, I'm alive because of you. I'm doing this because I love you. I thank you for what you've done to allow me to get out to the world. You are the ones that are going to get the reward on the sea of fire and glass. That's what's going to happen. It's not me. You get the reward. Don't worry, the applause doesn't get to me. I don't care how, if you want to go into something, a lot of these things are, and in this, they say, I'm personally going to be disappointed if you're not one of the two witnesses of Revelation. No, that's reserved for real men of God, okay? I appreciate that, but no, that is, I'm under no delusion. I am just thankful that I was able to be used in the whatever capacity I was able to be used in this life. And I've got more in me, people. Maybe it's just the end of this letter. I don't know, but I got more in me. Our hearts and prayers have been with you through these terrible things, to his own blessing and to his or Michael's blessing and advantage in the long run. They're absolutely right. Every time this has happened, there has been death on our staff. And what is the death? What it is exposed? The evil, the darkness that was in the hearts of some people. that were just there. No, not for the paycheck, but what they could steal. And that's why death happened. And the people that lined themselves up with him, so-called messianic teachers that were just, I knew years before, false prophets, just prophesied falsely about the Great Tribulation starting, 1993 and all this stuff. Just nonsense of people out there. But it exposed them because they got along with them and stepped in with them. Despite the setbacks, we've been impassioned by the tenacious, zealous spirit and stamina of Michael and the mind-boggling truths Yehovah has revealed to him and those that the Almighty sends his way. And of course, they are mind-boggling truths because they didn't come out of my mind. They boggled my mind, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just the instrument. I volunteered that I would teach what he taught me. That's all. And to try to keep it clean, not heaping any praise on myself. Through Michael and those the Almighty sends his way. And I have been sent some wonderful helps through the years, and Nehemiah Gordon being one of them. And many of these have testified to how Nehemiah's testimony in life has changed theirs. Because I brought Nehemiah into the forefront, and I refused to back down when people were even left the ministry, refused to give, people that would donate thousands a month because I had Nehemiah speak. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watch the Karite files and the stuff that I did to Nehemiah this year, now you begin to understand. This man was called by God. He is awakening to things. I just wrote things this morning that he stated that are just absolute treasures that he had no idea 18 years ago when we met. And they're absolute treasures because he is the only one with the resources, with the background, with the training to make the discoveries. And it all comes my way, people. You want to doubt me and not doubt the Almighty just because somebody doesn't fit the bill the way you think it ought to fit right now. He didn't do a repeat after me prayer and come forward on, just as I am or some kind of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, no, it's much bigger than that. It's a bigger world than what you can even begin to imagine. And I haven't copped out. I've stayed in the pocket. I fought against insurmountable odds, and it's only because the Almighty has given revelation, clear, distinct revelation, and has sent people to me with the right word, with the right thing at the right moment, and that's why I'm still here and I'm still alive today. Go on. People talk about how harsh and ill-spirited Michael is, but I've never seen the Holy Spirit move through any other ministry the way I've seen it move through Michael's. He's the hub of the network. This generation needs to toughen up and take some stern admonishment before the king gets here. You think Michael's tough? Wait till Yeshua shows up. Eyes of fire, white hair. John falls like a dead man at his feet. This isn't sweet baby Jesus, people. This is the brimstone is about to hit the fan, and you better learn to suck it up. And if you can't take me coming down a little bit hard on you, then just get out of the way, go back to church, go directly to hell because you're not going to get any place else. You don't want to serve the Messiah. You just want a sweet, comfortable religion. Well, this ain't the place. He wants people to have all they need, to be equipped with the truth, no matter what the cost, source, or political religious incorrectness. Rock on, Michael. We love it. The truth is freeing and exhilarating. We are on fire for Yeshua because we now know who he really is. Thanks to you. We love you, Michael. We love Michael for who he is. We love how Michael is just Michael, not Pastor Michael or Rabbi Rood or Reverend Rood. Michael's real and doesn't need status. He's a faithful, audacious servant, and no stroking titles are needed. That's true. I like to hear that I have affected your life in such a way, but I'm going to do it anyway, and it doesn't change my. You ain't going on the trip. I would love it. I really want to pick this up and say, Bonnie, Ryan is going this year. I wanted to do that. If I had unlimited pocketbooks, I would say, Bonnie, Ryan is going because of where you have been with me and what you've gone through. And now, Mike was there for us when we needed him. He responded immediately and came when we called. We prayed over our friends, close friends, 14-month-old baby as he lay in a hospital bed in Texas. He suffered the pain, suffering, and torment with us. And this was the reality. I was at some of our most precious and benevolent supporters in their home. I was teaching there that night. And I was in the shower that morning, and while I was in the shower, it hit me. Why haven't we seen more miracles? Why haven't we seen more people raised from the dead? And I said out loud, it's because I don't put myself in a place where it can happen. Finished my shower, went down to breakfast. As we were sitting there, the phone rang. I could see the look on the face of the person. And she said, Judy said that there's a baby. He's in the hospital, 14 months old. He's brain dead. And I said, get the address. I'm going right now. I believe that the Almighty showed me in that shower that this is what I was supposed to do. Why would this question come up? I got in the car. We drove 45 minutes to get there, and we got there. Everyone has been in that room praying and weeping. And now it was time to disconnect that baby. And the doctors and nurses all came in and stood around. Everyone was quiet. They wanted so badly to see that baby come to life, that beautiful baby boy. The room was filled with 20 people. I buried my head on that baby boy's chest, and I pled to God in heaven to bring life back into this child. It seemed for eternity. And I just wept over that baby. And he didn't breathe another breath. And when we walked out, they unplugged that child. I've learned not to ask why. Or why not? Maybe if that child was raised from the dead, somebody would think that I'm something special. I'm not. I'm an idiot. I know a great deal about that much. Now, on both sides of that, I'm a complete fool. But one thing I know, that our God is alive, that he changes lives. And I walked out there and said, I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. I'm going to continue to pray because this is where it all started. Before I went in the Marine Corps, I said, why do we not see miracles? Why do we not see the dead raised? So I thought, I'm going to do the hardest thing I can think of doing. I'm going to join the Marine Corps, going to go to Parris Island, going to go to Vietnam where the dead can be raised. That's where the adventure started, and it still continues on to this very day. Just have a few moments. This is from Jason Williams. I've been on a long journey from homeless to Ambassador Club member, but as I often tell my fellow recovering addicts and alcoholics at the homeless center where I hold Shabbat study and fellowship every week, We must become as the potter's clay so that the Almighty can begin the work of reshaping our lives, minds, and spirits for the purposes He has intended for us. It's a great group. Definitely not standard church fare. Some nights it's my time to speak, sometimes I just listen. But whatever the Spirit calls for, it's always time to serve, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I was fishing about the internet for something misrelated when I came upon Michael. I was 2 years into my walk as an adult, two years being sober, and desired to go beyond the surface of accepted doctrines. Something wasn't right. Of course, I knew Yeshua was master over all, and I accepted the basic tenets of faith and began applying them in my life. But when you sit in the pew and begin to question more than saying amen with everyone else, it's probably best to acknowledge that the Spirit is trying to tell you something. And I try not to turn a deaf ear. I did that for 25 years, and it didn't work. In my quest for new information, I experienced a rude awakening of my own. Here's a teacher I could relate to: irascible, Spirit-convicted, critical thinking, steeped in the historical context of the Scriptures that I was soon to find was the missing ingredient that had eluded me in my quest for truth and greater spiritual growth. Michael Rood Exposed, the video on YouTube and DVD. Michael Rood Exposed changed everything for me. As someone who had been in recovery for almost 5 years now, the Alcoholics Anonymous style intro hooked me. And the story Michael told set the precedent for everything I do in the study group I hold every week. Now, and I'm not reading it all, now finally it has all started coming together. I can read Scripture and immediately reference other Scriptures that pertain to and expound upon the passages at hand with the historical context that Michael has provided. I can give these passages depth and meaning and leave an impression upon the men that I fellowship with, hopefully leading them to study hard on their own and continue their growth. I've been lifted up in this walk, so today I took a stand with Michael and a rude awakening. I made the Ambassador Club commitment, and I hope it makes a difference and allows you to continue freely giving to others what you gave to me and continue to give to me. Thank you for the inspiration, knowledge, context, and truth. There is no doubt I would still be stumbling around in the dark if it weren't for your teachings. I might yet get the nod on the sea of fire and glass. We'll see, he says. I've spent a lot of time on the sea of fire and glass in my mind. I want to do something that's worthy of hearing. Good job. Jason, you're going with me.